Episode 108, Part 2. My guest again, Cindy Goodbreak. I'll remind you where we left off in this episode entitled, Who Do They Know? And how we got to that title. Well, it probably has something to do with location. Hey, I want to thank everybody at patreon.com/strangebrowradio. If you're listening to the show through Patreon, you are a part of the show in a way that other people are not, and I recognize that. So each and every month you come through for us, and now your money is going right into the world of night vision. So we're going to be purchasing the Psionics color monocular here, hopefully before spring, and that footage will definitely go right back onto YouTube for you to look at the exclusives. Okay, one moment and we will be back with our guest again, Cindy Goodbreak. All right, before we get back to part 2 with Cindy, I do want to recommend a docuseries on Netflix, Surviving Death. And I believe the executive producer on that is Leslie Kane. And if that name sounds sort of familiar, I think she was the one that broke the 2017 New York Times story on the Nimitz and the gimbal footage and the Tic Tac. So that, I think that is her baby, if I remember correctly. And she has really come through on an introspective looking at life after death, mediumship, everything having to do with the supernatural connected to the afterlife and those who connect with it. Really well done. It may change the conversation as far as science looking at this differently. Certainly they get into the perspective of science looking into this, and where I left off was dealing with mediums and those who channel and debunking some of the bullshit that comes along with it, but looking at the reality of mediums and people that actually can channel. So check that out. That's again at Netflix, Surviving Death. It's probably going to show up right at the top of the list because everybody's watching it, and I guess you should be too. All right, our next guest here again, Cindy Goodbreak. And when we left off, I was just asking Cindy about her connection to Sasquatch and how they may be connecting to her and perhaps following her from property to property. So I'll rewind the track back to that moment here and our conversation going forward here with extended experiencer of Sasquatch Interaction, Cindy Goodbreak. So what is the first thing that you noticed that let you know they were around? Was it a sound? Was it a gift? Was it a sighting? What was the first moment that you knew that they knew who you were?
Okay, so my husband, we didn't have this place here. He started looking when I stayed back in Texas. So he started looking, and after we got approved and all that stuff, the prices, everything was going up. And so through a freaking miracle, this place was being built. And he called me in. It wasn't even done inside. He just sent me pictures to my office. I saw the outside. I thought, oh, it's beautiful, but it's all woods. Oh, hell no, 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 no. So then he said, Cindy, this is the only thing I can find. It's really pretty out there. And he's like, and guess what? He said, there's a mountain. It's called Hoodoo Mountain. I was like, oh, hell no. No, no, no. We'll rent or something. He's like, oh, no, 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 no. Because we had a house in Texas that we had to pay for. I was like, so he bought the place. All right.
Well, now what's special about Hoodoo Mountain?
Okay, so I live where I live, and I'll just tell you, there's a town called Spirit Lake, Idaho, and a lot of people know about that town. This area here has a lot of native stuff that there's a lot of unrest. There's a story behind the town of Spirit Lake, and the town is Spirit Lake. This area here was made like through glacial lakes. There's just a whole neat story. I have, like I said, we're just getting into Idaho. I am currently working with some Spokane Indians, First Nations, and Colville as well, and also other psychic people that I am working with, that everything that's happened here. So basically, he bought this property and we moved up. We hauled our horses up here and with the kids and a couple of dogs, and we came up here. My husband closed. 2 weeks later, he drove down there because he had to haul the horse trailer up. The military packed up all of our stuff, and I will never forget coming into Wallace. I was like, and came into Coeur d'Alene, and I was like, how much further? He was like, we're still 45 minutes away. I could not believe it. We passed through Spirit Lake. I had been doing some research online, and when we pulled into my town here of Blanchard, it's like a private road, and it's like a logging road. It's not like paved or anything like that, and it's all woods. The property across the street was 10 acres, and then there's another road, and it was empty, and then there's like another road, and then like the pole line road, and then it goes up the mountain. It starts going up. So I live in the Hoodoo Valley. I just could not believe it. I waited purposely without even realizing what I was doing. I purposely did not want anything. I was willfully not knowing what I was doing. My younger son was only 18 months old when we moved here. And I didn't want anything to do with that. Everybody was telling me, you're crazy, this is your chance. I'm like, that's easy for you to say. I was in shock. I quit my job. I was going through that. I left my family. I sat on my front porch and I cried for like 2 weeks. I was getting really depressed. But then I snapped out of it. Make the best. It's beautiful here. Stop crying, Cindy. Man. So I started to move on, and the kids, my older son went to school, and I did family support for my husband's unit. And then guess what happened?
You tell.
JJ, my horse, and I had seen this in Texas, I forgot to tell y'all, there were like messed up braids in my horse's mane and tail only, not my husband's. And then I found a footprint in 2004. I saw it and I thought, what the heck? And guess what? There was only one. But again, I did not there's pine needles all over the place. I didn't move everything. I just saw the one, and I'm like, so here's a footprint. There's the fence. There's the horses. There's like this small little barn shed where we kept some of the hay and stuff. And I was like, what happened to you, dude? So I've heard of, before we moved up here, I heard about the braids. I the possible what they could be. And I've heard things from, it's a witch's knot, which is just a natural knot that happens, or it's, someone else has a theory that my animals have been molested, which I don't want to know that. I don't want that.
Do you ever find any going down that rabbit hole? Because that's what I've heard. Because the Native American women, I think, when they had their hair braids, that they were taken. Is that a possibility? And have you ever looked into that?
Of the comparison of
has your horse been raped?
I don't think so, because he was fine.
Mm-hmm.
but they were on there. So I don't have an explanation for it. But there was a print, and I called out my son, my older son. He came out, and I said, look. He goes, wow. And he's like, just one? And then I had a feed bucket, and I covered it. And I didn't take a picture, and, I didn't cast. I just didn't want anything to do with it. I was like, okay, bees. All right, now I know you're here. Right. Okay. So then October came. So now word has got out a little bit. There's a Bigfoot lady in town. Some cops have called me. Hey, I was working in Athol, and I got a report of a hairy man crossing the road, and it's actually on the BFRO website, and it was so funny. So he told me his story, and he was just on duty, and he got a report, and it's on the BFRO website. It's Kootenai County, Kootenai, and it's like in the early, like in the 90s, I think. I can't remember, but it was neat to talk to him, So then I've just talked to different people, like when we bought feed, things like this. This one guy said that he was a guide in the St. Joe Wilderness area, like when he was younger, and he had a partner, and one day, they would go to the same camp every year. And one time they went with some people, and the whole camp was just like torn up, and they had heard some noises. So he knew right away something wasn't right. So they ended up leaving with all the people. And that was the last time that he took anybody out. They ended up going back, and like the next day. So when they went back to get all their stuff, like the tents that were, all the supplies for, like people that you pick up from the airport or whoever, the city slickers to go enjoy this outing, right. Camping, everything was destroyed. And he said it's not easy to just get a outfitter's license or whatever. So that was it for them, he said. And he told me he knew what it was. And he said, I don't know what I did to piss him off, but he said that his partner had been peeing on like some of the trees, like he would like pee on some of the trees, and he thought his partner had made some comments about peeing on some of these trees, like to make a point or to do. And so that was pretty much our conversation. I couldn't go deeper into it because we were paying and we were leaving, and my husband's giving me that look like, shut up, let's just go. And I was like, oh my God, I want to ask him more questions. But that was it. So that was a neat story, and I've continued to buy hay from him until the time we sold our horses in 2011. So a couple of days later, after I found that print, I uncovered it, and it rained. So here we are. I'm like, okay. So one morning I woke up to go feed the horses, and it was still dark out, and I could hear them. I was like, son of a gun. Oh, seriously? Oh my gosh, that was so cool. And then I heard a wolf. I have never heard a wolf in my entire life. And I know that sound. And that was, I sat down like on the ground, on the forest floor outside of my home. And I thought, that is freaking awesome. The wolf, the Sasquatch thing, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? So
hear them vocalize. Sorry to interrupt. And you hear them vocalize how often?
Oh, all the time.
Like tonight, will you go outside and hear vocalization?
No, not every night. And I don't make calls anymore. I mean, not really. So October. So this is 2004. So October came, and I thought, okay, I'm going to let him know I'm here. I didn't even know what I was doing. So I had like a Jeep. It wasn't a Jeep. It was a, what do you call it? I had like a Isuzu Amigo with the top that comes off. So I took a friend with me, and this is 2004, and we went up the mountain, and I did. Excuse me, I'm sitting here burping. I did this experiment that some of my colleagues had done in Texas, and I will send you that audio and tell you more about that. But what happened is I went up the mountain and I told my friend, okay, listen, you have, and she had heard some of my audios. Lori from Night Callers had given some of us, she put some of the audios from just different outings and some of hers from where she lived, which she had and she has an amazing story. She lived in the Big Thicket. So I have this audio of in 2004, and I'm playing it for like different people. And, people are like, what the heck is that? Because I have like one that sounds like a T-Rex sound. And then I have like all the ones like I've sent you. And so I went up in the mountain with my friend, and I told her, okay, listen, we may hear something, we may not. So in my head, there's still flesh and blood, or I'm confused, or, I'm still fresh to this area. So when I got up there, I made some calls. And I think I tried to make a aggressive call. I felt kind of stupid, but because my friend was with me, and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, shush, be quiet. I have to make a call. And I had explained it to her already. So we're sitting there waiting. So I'm up like 3 miles up this mountain road. I think I went 7 miles up. So we were there for like 20 minutes. And then she was getting really antsy. And I said, okay, listen, let's go to the other side. So we came down, and I went to the other side, but I didn't go like up. I went like down this logging road, and I made some more calls. And within 10 minutes from where we had left, you could hear them coming in, and they were not happy. You could hear a whole bunch of them coming in. They were screaming, and they came in. They were, so many of them. It sounded like a choir, but not like the one when I was in Texas. They meant business, and there was a whole bunch of them, like shrieking, like they were coming, a whole bunch of them. And then you could hear the alpha, male or female, whatever. And my friend Susan was like, oh, hell no. So then, of course, I followed her, and I'm like, oh, crap. So they were right on, like, within minutes. Which is probably like, I'm going to say 7 miles from one location to the next. You could hear them coming in, and they were there like that fast. Oh my gosh, I got in my vehicle, took off down the road, and then I ended up coming home, which 3 miles was my house. Well, guess what? They followed me. They probably knew I lived there anyway. So now it's 2004. I'm hearing them. I'm seeing structures in the woods now that I didn't notice before. I started walking my woods. I found a ton of arches. I found a whole bunch of smaller X's with things in the ground. And then, of course, over time, some of those were gone. And then in 2005,
Are your kids, are your husband, are your kids, are their girlfriends, are they having experiences too?
So the kids were still small, so they were not really, having anything. My older son had a 4-wheeler, and he had some friends, and sometimes they would sleep out in the woods. My younger son, when he was 4, which is 2 years later, he started riding the 4-wheeler on their property. That kid is like a daredevil. So 2005 came, and I heard things, but I wasn't audio recording or nothing like I am now. And I didn't work. Obviously, I quit my job. My company had offices in Spokane, so they said, okay, we'll give you 6 months, but there's no way. So I did not go back to work. Instead, I volunteered with the military, and then my husband's unit got called to go to Iraq in 2005. And so 2005 was, I really don't remember too much other than the typical, you hear stuff outside. And then so then the first weird thing happened to me in my woods in 2005. We were gone, and then when we came home, my husband got the phone call that that they were going to Iraq, and I was I was upset, and the commander needed to talk to my husband to do the phone. He had to call his people. So I was like, oh man. So it was dark, and it was kind of cold outside, but I think it was summertime. I ended up going out. I answered the phone because it was my friend, and she said, hey, her husband was the first sergeant major. She said, hey, Scott needs to talk to Ron. I was like, why? That feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I still get emotional. Okay, I'm not gonna get emotional. And then she said they're going to Iraq, and I was like, oh my God, seriously? And then I handed him the phone, and I tried not to cry. I don't know why I cried. It's so stupid. And then I went to go feed the horses, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? All this stuff was going in my head. Going back to Texas, I'm going to sell the house. So I fed him, and then I was looking inside the sliding glass door because he was still on the phone, and I just was trying to not lose it. So then I heard a noise like from the woods, and I thought, what the heck was that? So I walked around the back of this building, and I sat down, and I started crying. Not like, just a little bit. And I thought, okay, stop it. Get up. And so I did. And then I heard like a cooing noise from the woods. And I've never heard I've never heard that like there. I've heard that like on outings, like, what is that, And it freaked me out. I ran to like around closer to where the light was, and then all of a sudden I heard a roar off the mountain. I am not kidding you, and it went right through me. I was like, what is going on? So I'm standing on the light. I'm trying to figure out what is this cooing noise, kind of like a mother would do to a baby. And then I hear the roar, and then my husband, he gets off the phone, and I come inside, and I want to talk about him going to Iraq, but the phone rang, and it was my neighbor. And so my husband, like, it was like nothing to him, it's not a big deal. We're going to Iraq. It's not a big deal. He tells me, suck it up.
Business trip.
So,
yeah.
So I answered the phone, and it was my neighbor, and she also had animals, and the same lady who went up with me on the mountain, she said, was that what I heard? I said, yes. So she wanted to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I just said, hey, Sue, can I call you tomorrow? She's like, yeah, but was that really what you heard? What we heard? And I was like, yes, that was a Sasquatch. And she goes, are you okay? I was like, well, yes, I think Ron's unit just got called to Iraq right now. I said, so can I just talk to you later? She's like, oh, yeah. So we hung up, but then we didn't talk about it. It is what it is.
Right.
Not much I can do about it. So I was just trying to figure out what the heck was that noise. So that next day I went like out in back of the barn shop, and it was there was a bag of horse feed at the end of the property, and I don't know how it got there. Maybe the horses dragged it back there? I have no, but the horse feed is in the barn. So how did it go from the barn to in the fence? Or maybe it got in the fence, and maybe
how big is the bag, Cindy?
Like maybe your typical like 25-pound bag of horse feed.
Right. And so it'd just be you or your husband that could carry it, right?
Yeah. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know if there was any feed left in this bag or not, but there was nothing there. I didn't see anything on the ground. It was just an empty bag. But I just thought that was really weird. And so I went to this part of my property and I just felt really creepy. And to this day, I still feel creepy. So, so that was the first weird thing that happened to me there. I mean, here on my property. And then we ended up going to West Virginia for a year. And then,
Well, let's
and
go
that was
back to
just,
that moment where you're crying, and you hear a cooing sound. Looking back at that cooing sound, do you think that that was an acknowledgement over you, or do you think that you were just at the right place at the right time? I mean,
oh no, that
what?
is, that's the female that comes around now that I know what it is. That's my first encounter. I've given her a name, Keela. I don't know why that name just popped in my head. I don't know. So that's just what I call her. And I say her, not because I've seen her, because I have felt her. And I have gotten these gifts over time. They just didn't happen overnight. But I've heard her
Describe
multiple
some of
other.
these gifts that she leaves you.
Okay, not gifts as in gifts that she leaves me. Gifts that I have as a person in like when you feel something.
Gotcha.
Okay, well, actually, it's not a gift. We all have that. It's just, are you in
Mm-hmm.
tune with it or not? So I don't like to say I'm gifted. I'm just in tune with my feelings of acknowledgement or what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Are you saying, Cindy, that they don't ever bring you anything?
yeah, they bring me rocks and things like that.
What do you mean in things like that?
So, I think they've left me
What kind of rocks?
um just different colored rocks. Sometimes I get quartz on my porch
Mm-hmm.
or on my, like one time there was like something that stands out to me, because I mean there's like my driveway is rocks, right? The caliche rocks, whatever. And then there's like the mountain rocks around here. So if you see something, it's not like a big deal. However, there have been things that just like get my attention, and they're just
Mm-hmm.
different kind of rocks. Like I've gotten like two quartz looking rocks. I've gotten this round orange rock. It looks like an egg. And what's funny is that I have like this rooster, like this, not a plaster, a rooster. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know, made from stone. And I have it like outside. And I found this rock like under the chicken. It's not a rooster, whatever. Like, it left it there. Like, I know that chickens lay eggs.
Right,
Isn't
right.
it?
Yeah, no,
So weird. So
that
stuff like
definitely
that.
sounds like them. What about gifts inside the house? Have you ever found a rock in an unusual place, like inside the house or
Um,
in a strange spot?
no, not inside the house. If anything like that was happening, I probably didn't realize it till like later, or I wasn't picking up on it. So I don't know if anything, I never really noticed anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that was the first weird thing that happened. And then we went to go live in West Virginia. Then when we came back, I was busy with, the kids and all that. And then my husband had surgery. He retired.
Okay, wait, now, so you go from Idaho to West Virginia and then back to Idaho?
Yes, sorry. We came. So
Okay.
now he's retiring. We
Mm-hmm.
don't we don't go back to Texas. We come back here to Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
So he's officially retired
Gotcha.
now. It's like 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get
Same property that you had before. You
yes,
didn't sell it.
this property
Okay.
stayed. Our friends took care of it. We were gone for
Mm-hmm.
a year. We came back. We did haul our horses back from West Virginia. And
Mm-hmm.
when we were, so the year is 2007. So 2007, 8, 9, I had a lot of things happen. But until 2017, it really ramped up because I had a couple of things that were happening. And, to be honest with you, I think that I just, things were happening, but I just like brushed them off. Like, in the like from 2007 on, but like Keela would come around when things would happen.
This
So
is the
like,
female.
yes.
Okay.
Now I have never seen her. Okay, like, oh, like showing up. In 2000. So I'm going to skip ahead now because other things have happened.
Let me ask you this.
Nothing
You say
significant.
she's around, though,
Yeah.
but you don't see her.
No.
Does she show up
I
cloaked?
So, well, okay, so like here's an example. So my husband had surgery, okay, and it was on his neck, and I was not worried. I wasn't. I mean, yeah, of course I'm worried, but it's not like open heart surgery. So I was in this room where I'm sitting right here watching TV. The sliding glass door is over here. He was in the bedroom, and um, he said, "Hey, what's that noise?" And I said, "What noise?" Because I didn't hear anything. I'm watching TV. So I get up and I go talk to him, and he's like, he has the window open. So I look outside, and I'm like, it's dark. I mean, I'm not going to see anything. And he said, I heard like a cooing noise. So he's had surgery. He's laying in bed trying to heal, that evening. And so I stepped out on my back porch, and the horses were pretty much fine, but I just had this, I don't know how it's, without sounding crazy, I just had this emanating feeling that came through me of concern and then love. I don't know how else to explain it to you. And then I heard like a, or like a, how like a baby monkey would, make a noise like very briefly. And I thought, what the heck was that? And so I just thought, okay, you're here, whatever. I mean, I felt, I didn't hear any rustling in the woods or nothing like that. I just felt. My husband heard the cooing noise. I did not. But when I opened my back door, that was like what I was receiving. Now, in my head, I'm still flesh and blood, okay? And I hate to say it, I'm one of the people that made fun of other people. Oh, you're crazy. You're woo, what? So I'm just like, okay, so now things are happening, they're normal, okay, fine, whatever. So she's come around only a handful of times when I don't hear her thrashing in the woods. I can just feel her. Now she leaves like structures. I'm assuming it's her, because anytime like there's something in life that's hard or sad, like if, for example, I've had a couple of dogs die. They're all buried in the same area. I'm out there crying. I had these two dogs that I took care of. My neighbor is a retired, but he was active duty at the time, and he asked if we would take care of his two dogs. They were beagles, and I'm like, I already have three dogs, so now I'm gonna take two. I'm talking to but I'm a soldier's wife. I'm going to do this because, I'm stupid like that. So now I have no fence. I have these two dogs, and they're so cute. This is 2011. So now we're 2011, and we had to get the invisible fence. And one day I heard a roar, like from across the street, like, now what I'm realizing is the power line road. So across the street is 10 acres, and then another road, and then there's a power line that it starts going up, private property, state land, going up the mountain. And I did not like that. I did not like the feeling that I had. I did not like, I did not like that. I didn't know what that was about. I just did not like that. So Sadie, one of the beagles, ended up taking off in a snowstorm like the day before Thanksgiving. We never found her. She's a runner. She took off. We never found her. And I felt really bad because my neighbor was in Iraq in his hooch, and I had to tell him, and I was crying. It was awful. So I was in the woods. I would go to the woods like a lot. And I was upset. I was crying. How did this happen to me? This is all my fault. I was crying. I heard the cooing noise again then. But this time I was like, where are you? Why don't you just freaking show yourself? So this is 2011. I could tell, that was her. I could hear her making just some noises, but there was nobody there. And this was like evening time. So I don't know. The whole town was looking for it. It was awful. Soldier's dog took off. I felt then I had to text him, and they were supposed to go on a mission, and then yeah, it was bad. So
Cindy, when did you start rounding the bend from flesh and blood? What was the incident? It wasn't the dog disappearing. Because things have transpired now to where you're seeing lights. You don't know that you just hear Bigfoot yelling anymore. There's these other sounds. What was the event that said, okay, I need to give in here and at least entertain the idea that there's something else happening?
Well, with other things, I was hearing things, I couldn't see anything. 2017, May, the Monday before Memorial Day, I worked 2 nights for some friends through the government, and I would come home every Monday, and every Monday I would leave like around 10:30, and I'd come home. I worked in Spirit Lake for 2 of my friends. They had 2 kids they had adopted through the state, and I have kind of a background. So I worked for them for like 6 hours, and I'd come home. 4 hours, maybe 4.5. So every Monday night and every Friday night, like clockwork, I'd come home. So one night I came home. I walked through the door. It was like, I don't know, maybe 11. And my husband goes, "Is that you, Cindy?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." He's never done that, like, "Yeah, it's me." And then I went to bed, and then my neighbor texted me. My neighbor now is retired. He's not into Sasquatch or nothing. He lives next door to me. He is not into any of this, okay? He doesn't even know, like, what I do or anything. And his place is all wooded too. Well, my husband says, who's that? And I saw that's just my, Ken texting me. So we went to sleep. The next morning when he was having breakfast, he gave me this look, and I knew he was going to tell me something he didn't want to talk about. He said, "Well, something slapped the house last night." What? What? I was like, "When?" He said like 30 minutes before you came home. Now, keep in mind, my husband does not want to talk about this. He doesn't care. So for him to tell me this, and he didn't even look concerned. I was like, "What? Like where? What part of the house?" "Well, somewhere back there." So I ran outside, and I ran around. I have a running porch. I ran around to like where my window is, because there's a trail. Oh, that's another thing. They like to come from the woods and like come to my window and like go back to the woods, or somebody does. There's a trail. It's like I've gotten used to it. That really creeped me out for a long time. I saw nothing. I saw no footprints. And then I was like, no, this is not happening. This is not happening. Something did not slap the house. There's got to be an explanation. And then when I walked around and I was on the porch, I saw handprints, oily handprints. Now, not perfect, but like something where if something were just to like smack the house and like leave like the palm, like, prints. And so I saw that, and so I'm getting like a little anxiety right now as we talk about it. I've gotten used to it. I've accepted it. I ran in the house, and I was like, "Dad, that's crazy." And he's like, "Well, I mean, whatever. You call him in." He was like, "Seriously, dude?" and I was like, "Oh," and my Ken texted me. So I read my text, and I still have the text. He said, "Hey, my animals are acting crazy, and there's something outside." So apparently whatever was here, so I have like game trails, like one that goes from my property to his. His animals were acting crazy, and then so he's sending me a text. So something slaps my house here, and then it goes over to his house, and like after midnight, his animals are acting weird, all this other stuff. His wife is a nurse, so she has to go to sleep early. So he has these bedroom windows that are like open, and there's like no curtains on there. But again, it's all woods, and nobody can see into his house. And his driveway is like a horseshoe-shaped driveway. So he's in his bedroom later, and he sees outside. He sees something standing on hind legs. This is what concerns me. He saw something standing on two legs, but he said the way he described it, it sounded like a dog's legs, but he didn't go into depth. So he just said it was bipedal and it was a bear. At first he thought it was a burglar. He said it was sniffing the air. I said, what? And I told my husband, oh my God. And he's like, oh, now just calm down. And he says, well, I have to go to work. So he takes off, and I'm sitting in the kitchen.
Right.
Going, oh my God, I'm shaking. I'm trying, because, hey, my husband, he's like, well, hey, if they take you, they take you. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot, buddy, for your concern.
Right.
And he's just like, oh, just calm, because to him, it's like, oh, it's probably nothing. So now,
right, does he just think that this is crazy, and so he's trying to add a little levity?
He just doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you even bring up Bigfoot to him, he's like, yeah, I just don't care. That's what he says,
What about tracks? Have you found giant canine tracks?
Not really, no.
Mm-mm.
And so
no.
I went to go talk to my.
But you have so much activity, and just because of time, we'll have to jump around here a little bit. But regarding some of the videos you sent me, some of the things that you see around your property, what about poltergeist? Do you have anything that seems as though it's poltergeist related in your house?
I don't know if I have that in my house. I think the unrest is in the woods. Like I said, I've hooked up with other people that have come over here. They've did like readings, and they said that this area here, there's just there's curses here in the area, and that they would clean the area. Yeah.
Okay. So Hoodoo Mountain again, we have a Hoodoo right outside of Portland, Oregon. It's a ski resort. Is Hoodoo the same as voodoo? Is that what we're talking about? This is a cursed mountain?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's a patch of woods. There's a section of the mountain that I was shown to me on a map that is supposedly cursed. So this is all going out of anything I'm into or anything like that. So you had asked me the question. So when did I start? So that was the time I called I called my friend. I'm selling my house. I'm done. I had a friend of mine call me and said, listen, calm down, blah, blah, blah. My husband heard me talking to them, and he said, if we have to sell this house because of that, that's it. So I was like, no, it's fine. So that was the first thing that started really waking me up. And then I started putting out my audio. And then in July, September, so I'm trying to think, July, I put out my audio on the tailgate of my truck, and those little sons of guns, they were throwing a bunch of pebbles at my truck in the audio. So I'm getting bink, bink, and then they threw a really heavy rock, bink, and then the next day I was like, are you kidding me? And so,
but Cindy, did you hear those items land? Did they hit and did they land?
No, I was in the house. I put my audio out there.
No, what I'm saying on the recording, when they hit your car, did you hear the items land, or did you just hear them hit?
Oh, no, they hit and then they landed.
Okay, so you heard a rock.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
a rock. Yeah, like you know the difference between a pine cone and
Mm-hmm.
a pebble hitting
Mm-hmm.
metal.
Right.
You know, there's a
Did you find
difference.
scars on your car? Did you find
Oh
dents or
yeah, there's a
scratches?
freaking dent. Oh yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
was not happy.
Okay.
I went into the woods and I said, okay, that is enough. So now I'm talking to myself in the woods, in the woods. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen here so you can see this as well. And we're going to play the video where you see something, you think it's a craft. It might be a UFO. It may be a semi truck from what you're saying, but something is throwing rocks at your car, right?
Yes. So this was like a year ago. So it's 2019. It's early in the morning. I'm letting the dogs out basically, and I see this light up in the woods. So, and then I see it that's not a logging truck. It's like flickering, and I'm thinking, holy crap. So I grabbed my phone, and then I walked outside. And I started filming. One of my dogs growls, and then you hear pine cones being thrown. And then I realized they're out in the woods trying to throw pine cones at me. But they had woken us up at 2:30 inside my house. That was another thing. I'm inside my house. There, me and my husband sat straight up in bed, and I was like, "What was that?" And he was like, "Is that the dogs howling?" I was like,
Right.
"No, they're asleep." That was 2:30. So now I'm gone back to sleep. I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on. And then at 5:30, that happens.
All right, let's play this clip. It's a really interesting clip, and it's pretty funny actually because you got a
It's
sailor's
bad word.
mouth, and it's funny how you reply to him. So I'm going to play it now.
You just stay the fuck over there.
Sorry.
Try to get these damn lights. There they are. Fucking throwing pine cones at me. Oh, now there's two. Shit, I can't get them on. I got them on a video, but I can't get them on. Come on, where are you? Oh, cool. It's probably just truckers up there, but still it's pretty cool. Oh, you better stop throwing shit at me! I'm not fucking kidding, idiot! Stop it! Damn little assholes won't leave me alone. Oh, cool, there's some more lights. I'm just looking!
All right, we can play that again. Let me stop this here, but that's just so classic because I mean we walked through your journey here to this point. Now you're so comfortable with the phenomena messing with you. You're not scared. You're irritated.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well,
I'm still scared though.
but you sure don't act like it there.
Well, because they've like, are you kidding me? All these years, now you're gonna show up when I'm trying to get a
Right.
picture of UFO?
Right.
Yeah, that pisses me off.
Well, what
It's
do you think
ironic,
that's
isn't
about?
it?
Do you think there's a connection between what you're filming and what they're doing?
Oh yeah, they clearly did not want me to be out there in the woods. And then some other people, because I had put that on Facebook, and people were contacting me. Yeah, we saw that. What was that about? And then there was like a helicopter that was going over like various times.
Mm-hmm.
That there's been helicopters going over this valley, and I was like, oh crap, maybe I'm saying too much. Hey, and then what was up with the howl in my house? That was some kind of warning. I don't know.
Okay, now you told me that, but you said you didn't tell them. You heard a howl in your house.
Yeah, at 2:30, 3 hours before I walked outside, I was awoken up. So they were
It wasn't a dream.
No, it wasn't a dream. Me and my husband sat up.
You both heard it. Yeah.
We were woken up. And of course he's like, oh, I don't know. He goes, he's not worried. He's got a big old fat shotgun and an AR. He's not worried. My husband's 6'5". Hey, you MFs, I dare you to come in my house. Oh no, he ain't worried. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What was that? And I'm looking at my dogs. All three of them are asleep. It's like 3 o'clock. I'm looking at the clock, and I must have fallen back asleep because I woke up again at 5, and I walked outside, and I caught that.
And your husband stayed inside?
Oh, yeah. He's still
Mhm.
asleep.
Right.
Yeah. And then later I said, hey, guess what I caught? I was like, oh, that's cool. He doesn't care.
Okay. So where are we at today as far as the phenomena? Are you recording every night? What are you doing with the recordings? What's your approach?
So I'm not recording as much. They're not letting me. I've had some other things happen that we haven't even gotten into. That's probably a whole other show with my kid. And I don't know if you want to get into that another time. He is another beacon. He's had, not that they want me to talk about it, but I can give you.
Is this your youngest kid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that, okay, so my older son and my younger son are very different. My older son is like my husband, very white. I'm dark skinned. I have obviously a background from South America somewhere. My younger son is, dark like me. He is, I'm an empath. Along this journey, I've been different my whole life. Okay. I've been different. I've started working with other shamans and different people of culture, of native backgrounds, and also just people who have come to me because I've heard they've heard my audios, and so someone contacted me. Do you have the audio there of the chipmunks going off and then that noise?
Let's take a look here. Let me see. I've got one more clip of yours. Let's see if this is what you're talking about. I've got, let's go to, this might be a edited down version of the howlers, but let's see if this is it. Is that it?
Wait. Okay, that's pretty much it.
Okay, is that the one you were hoping for?
No, but I'm glad that you played that one. I didn't realize. So that was 2017. So the thing with my house happened in May, and then in 2017, we built a shop on our property, and I was told to ask permission. Like, don't just go chopping trees down. So now my thinking is changing. And I'm trying to get answers, and I'm trying to talk to some of the people I've used to go out with, and nobody wants to hear anything about any woo stuff. In fact, I hate that word. There's got to be another explanation for it. No, there is no other explanation. I heard a hoth. There was nothing there. There's handprints on my house. What the hell's going on? So we built a shop, and I put my audio out that night, and we had the metal delivered. So we cleared the woods in a couple of days, and I had not put my audio out there. And then the metal was delivered. It's like 20 feet long of metal siding. I did put out my audio the end of July, and it was like, it gets dark at like what, 9:30. So I put it out the next day when I was hearing it, and I had the windows open in this front room. We were watching TV in here, but I didn't hear it. The next day when I pulled the audio, I started playing it, and within like 5 minutes, you could hear the metal like go bam, bam. And then you heard a meow from the woods, or like a imp noise, like from a chimp, which it's not. I'm not saying it's a chimp. And I was like, what the heck? They're pissed off. That's the message I was receiving. Okay, it was like I received a message that they're pissed, and then I received a message somehow, because this is how I felt it, the understanding. They were mad because I was clearing the woods, and so I went outside the next day, and I said, listen, we're building the shop here, and just, it's going to happen, so I'm sorry I didn't ask you, and, it's not the end of the world, whatever, just stop, don't be doing crap like that. I don't like shit like that, okay? Don't be banging on shit, just freaking come and, like, tell me, I don't like this shit, okay? I don't like to play games. So I'm assuming that's how I understood it. However they told me, did I hear anything telepathic? No. It was received in a different understanding kind of way. So here I am, thinking I'm losing my mind. The next day, they come back, they finish the shop eventually, and unfortunately, my son's dog has died. He got run over by heavy machinery that was here. That was my fault, because I didn't bring him in the house. That was really bad. My son was 14. That was his dog. So now he's 14. This is my youngest. He's 14. His dog has died, and it's awful. So we take the dog to the vet. He's dying. He's been crushed. The vet has to put him down. We come home. I'm crying. I'm mad. And so we bury Jackson in the woods. God, Cindy, stop crying. So we bury, I'm such a crybaby. So we bury our dog, and it was bad. And again, I heard Keela. She came around, and she was like, ooh. And I just let it out, because the other dog that I took care of, my neighbor's dog, she died, Callie. I loved her. And when he came back from Iraq, she didn't want to be with him anymore, because I had her 2 or 3 years. Well, anyway, long story, she ended up dying, and I was like, oh my God, seriously, all these animals are dying on me. So we buried him. So that was another time that she's come around. So that video that you heard is our new dog that we got. We had to put up a fence. I'll do a lot of live videos on Facebook, and you'll see my 3 dogs on there. One is Gunner, the black lab. So we got him in September. We had to put up a fence because he was 7 months old. And he wants to take off. So we put a fence up. And that next March, my husband was actually out of town. And the kids around here, so my youngest son's 14. He's got a 4-wheeler. Him and his friends will go up and down these roads at midnight. Oh, yeah, I let him do that. In a blizzard, I'm a bad mom, He would go riding out in the woods with his friends. Well, one night they were out there. So now we've had Gunner like 7 months. So now he's probably like a year or 6, 7, almost going on a year. So it's March. My husband, who is a private investigator now, what he does for a living, he was out of town in Montana. We have a big RV outside. So the kids the night before had been walking down the road, and they ran home, and they said, we heard heavy breathing from across the street. And I was like, well, then just stay here in the RV. He had some friends spend the night. This other kid was supposed to come over on a 4-wheeler. So now I go outside, and I hear that noise across the street, but not in full force like that. I hear a, and I'm thinking, really? Well, I don't know who you think you are, dude, but you can just like get on out of here. Now, I'm not walking across the street. I'm thinking that. I'm thinking this to him, because he's new. Again, I'm getting this feeling, you're new. I don't know who you are or what you're doing, but I don't want you around here. And so the kid, their other friend that was supposed to come over, I had to call the mom and say, listen, it's really getting nasty out and I'm really tired, so maybe it's better if he just doesn't come over. I'm a mean mom. I told this kid he can't come over. Well, hell, I don't want somebody coming down the road with whatever has parked itself across the street. So I was just like, oh, whatever, dude, So that night, I tell the kids, it's 12:15 a.m. It's spring break, and it's still cold out, and it's snowing a little bit. I said, okay, listen, y'all are gonna stay in the RV. If you're gonna come in the house to, use the bathroom or whatever, that's fine. But don't be playing tricks on me. Like, y'all know the rules. Don't be smacking the house. Don't do nothing like that, because you know what, somebody's gonna get shot. Okay. So I went to bed and I put on my audio recorder, and then Gunner, the dog you hear in that audio, I forgot to close the doggy door, and it's getting cold in the house, and I'm thinking, crap. He comes running in, he lands on me in the bed, and I sat up, and he's trying to get me to go. So I went out there, and I was like, oh, I closed the doggy door. I didn't check anything else. I just looked at the RV. The kids were in the RV sleeping. Hey, it's 12:30. I'm tired. I went to bed. The next day, when I started hearing the audio, that's what I heard. Gunner's in the corner, the fence. He's an acre and a half over where it's fenced in, and he is right there by the game trail. This, whatever it was across the street. That's what it did, and it did that 2 nights in a row. Gunner was outside barking. I had to drag him in the house. He was biting the wire, the fence wire, with his teeth. He was ready to go through the fence, and he was barking. Whatever was across the street, it was not happy, and we heard it 2 nights in a row. And so,
and this is that last audio we played, the last audio?
That's what that was, yes.
Okay, let's hear that again, just so now we have it in context, and I want to play that again. And we've looked at that on Spectrogram too. I think I sent you a clip after I cleaned it up a little bit for you. So it looks unusual. It sounds unusual. If anybody's hearing that sound in earshot and you think you know what that is naturally, we'd love to hear what that is, because it doesn't sound like a coyote to me. Doesn't sound like an elk and rut to me.
No.
Now, have you found Bigfooters up in your neck of the woods? Are there... since it's known as a hot spot and you live underneath cursed Hoodoo Mountain, surely you have interested parties.
Well, okay, so I didn't want to be with anybody. I had a lot of people seek me out. I just had no interest, in meeting up with anybody. I had opportunities, and then after some other things happened, I was coming home from work one night, again on a Monday, and it was Thanksgiving. I think it was 2017. So that happened in 2018, okay, in March. So May of 2017 is when my house got slapped, and then I started recording in July, and then we got Gunner here. I already had my Malamute Star, and then November, I was coming home from work, and my husband had to put a new gate on the fence. So, because Gunner was, trying to paw it, and the stupid gate was opening up. So he had to tie it up. So we would tie it up, and it was a real pain. And I was ready to give this dog up. He was opening the gate door, and he kept going across the street. He would come back after we would go catch him. He would dig under the fence. I was putting up logs along the fence line. So in November, I was coming home on a Monday night, and I heard of it. It was like 11:15 at night when I came home, and as soon as I got down from my truck, I heard a branch break, and then I walked to the gate and I heard another one, and then I walked to my porch and there was another loud snap, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'm going to bed. That is your house. And I pointed to the mountain. I said, that is your house and this is my house in here. So I closed the door and I went to sleep. It's like whatever. So that's something else that happened. And the next day, across the street, there was a tree branch that went over like this, a marker, and there was like 3 more markers. And then I found the trees that had been snapped off, 3 of them. So, I have like a lot of stories like that.
What I was saying to you, we'll do an expanded interview, Cindy, in the future with you, and get into the more recent stuff that's happening. And if we can break through quarantine and actually get out that way and maybe meet at Wallace and break out a red Solo cup like I know they like to do, and have a pint and talk for a bit more, I'd love to do that. But as always, keep me abreast of anything going on. If you want some more audio cleaned up, I'd love to do it. And we have a conference coming up too, since you're into recording. By the way, what kind of recorder are you using?
Okay, cheap Walmart. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. Yeah, because there's better recorders out there that aren't that much more expensive. And so that's what we want to do, is get together on February 6th and 7th and start from the beginning and just say, hey, this is how we started with a cheap Walmart recorder, and this is why we bought this one, and this is how you do it, and here's the program you upload on the computer, and this is why you want to do it this way. You save a bunch of time. And so I look forward to being able to talk to you in the future about all that stuff. And anyway, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and don't be a stranger.
Oh, I won't, and thank you for having me, but you'll have to come to my house.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Well, we're gonna sleep out in my woods next year,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't talked about my son. Maybe a future time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some more crazy stories. I could probably talk to you about another hour. And I want him to sleep out there with us if he will. He's a teenager,
Yeah, so, I never say no to sleeping right outside their zone. And when it's at your property too, there's certain sense of respect that seems to come with them coming in. It seems more playful. It seems less confrontational. And so.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, as long as you're okay with it.
Oh yeah. So again, he can go out in the woods and he'll hear coming up towards him. It's crazy, but that'll be for another conversation. And okay. Yes, so I'm hoping that we can do that this next summer. I should have done it this past summer, but I didn't. So my husband was gone for 4 months, and I had some other stuff happen that I didn't even get into. But
all right,
we can later.
As long as you're willing to come back on, we'll just pick up where we left off.
Sure, I could talk to you another hour. I can talk all night long.
All right, Cindy, have a good evening, and we will have you back on the show.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, that is part 2 with Cindy Goodbreak. And I'm sure there's a part 3 in here somewhere. It may be one that we do in person with her at her property come spring or summer. So look forward to that. Hey, don't forget to check out the strangebrowradio.com Facebook page, strangebrowradio.com website regarding February 6th and 7th. We have a free event that's going to be streaming at the Facebook site, and it is a Sasquatch anomalous audio analysis workshop, a 2-day workshop, and we're going to go through A to Z, front to back, on what we do. There's 4 different speakers that are going to be speaking: myself, Kevin Carney, Ben Freed, Scott Taylor, and myself, regarding our technique to look into sounds in the field, how to record them, what we do, advice we may have. So this is your chance to ask questions about different recording techniques, how to download it, listen to it, and then archive it, separate it, and clean it up, and then have your own little bit of audio fun along the way. So that, again, February 6th and 7th, you can sign up now, free. That's it for me. I hope everybody has a good evening, and of course, I will see you in the trees.